Well, hello there everyone, almightyzentaco here. Today we're going to be learning how to make a Psuedo-3D swinging ball. This is an idea I came up with after playing Wario World for the Virtual Boy. It's a pretty cool little effect, so I figured I'd see if I could develop it in Fusion, and turns out I could. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that's going to look like when we're done. Okay, so as you see, we have this ball, and it's swinging as if it were on a pendulum, and it's coming towards the player and then away from the player. And, you know, when it hits the middle of the ground there where the smoke pops up, that's where you would strike the player. All right, so this whole concept is based on a pendulum. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to make a pendulum, and then once we understand that concept, we can fairly easily convert that into what we're trying to do here. So let's get down to it. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to change the size of my frame and of my screen to 1920 by 1080. I prefer a little more working room for this one. So we're going to go to both the frame settings and then to the properties of the application and change them both to 1920 by 1080. Okay, now that we've done that, we're going to need, like I said first, we're going to learn the pendulum. So you're going to need a new active object, so drop one in. And I'm going to increase the length of it because it is supposed to be a pendulum. And I'm going to make sure that the hotspot is at the top because that's the point that we're going to rotate from. Okay, so this is actually really simple. We can do this in a single line. It's going to use sine. So we're going to do that right now. Let's go ahead and create an always event. And what we're going to do is go to the pendulum object, which we are just calling active. We're going to change its angle. So that is under scale angle, set the angle, and here's the formula we're going to need. It's going to be sine, and then parentheses, timer, divided by, this is our swing speed variable. We're just going to, our value, we're just going to put one in here, but eventually we're going to make this a variable so that we can control this a little more dynamically. So we'll just put 10 in for now. Okay, now we need the amplitude. So we multiply by the amplitude of the sine wave. The amplitude is how high the sine wave will go. So in this case, it's going to be how far the pendulum is going to swing. We'll say 100. Okay, and that's all you have to do. Sine, timer, divided by 10, times 100. We'll do 1 for maximum quality, and then we'll test it out. All right, so there you go. We have a pendulum. It's very simple. It's just based on a sine wave. Now, as you see, it is a little wide of an arc, so 100 is probably too much. Maybe like 75. Okay. Now we're going to need to create the ball object. So insert a new active object. We're going to rename that ball, and I'm going to import some art for it. Okay, so there is our swinging ball. So essentially what we're going to do is we want to conceptually attach it to the end of the pendulum, and we're going to have it move in and out of the screen, changing its scale and up its Y position, up and down. So let's shrink it, and just to see, let's go ahead and attach it to the end of the pendulum real quick. So to do that, I'm going to create an action point at the bottom of the pendulum, and I'm just going to set the position of this ball object to that hotspot. So just go to position, set X coordinate to, go to the pendulum, and grab the position X coordinate of its action point. And then we're going to set the Y to the Y position of the action point. Okay, as you see, the ball is at the edge of the pendulum. So if we imagine that the player was over here on the right side, the scale of the ball is going to need to increase as it approaches the player and decrease as it gets away from the player. And then as you see, it's going to need to move up and down. So it would be moving up here, back down, and then back up, and back down, and back up, and back down. And in fact, if you notice, you're going to get 2 up and down movements for every single back and forth towards and away from the player. See, it moves towards the player and away. That's one movement. But when it did that, it also moved up and down twice. See, up and up and down, right and left. So that's going to change the way that we have to control the up and down movement versus the left and right movement. They're going to be a little different. All right, so let's go ahead and take this concept and convert it into 3D. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that pendulum. Okay, so go ahead and click on your ball, and we're going to need to add some values for this to work. We're going to need 5 values. We're going to need something called, we're going to call it scale amp. That's going to be the amplitude of the scale movement. We're going to need the swing amp. We're going to need the swing speed, the initial Y position, and the scalar. So let's go ahead and do that now. Scale amp, swing amp, swing speed, init Y, and scalar. All right, so let me explain these real quick. Scale amp, like I said, is going to be the amplitude since we are using a sine wave. That is the size of the wave that's going to be controlling the scale, which the scale is, as we said, it's how close and how far away this ball is going to appear from the player. We're going to do that, control that with scale. Swing amp is going to be the up and down swing, and that's going to be the amplitude of that movement, which is going to change based on the resolution of your game and also how far up and down you want it to move. We have the speed, which is going to be the modifying number we divide timer by. Initial Y. Now we need that because we're going to be changing the Y movement. We're going to essentially anchor it to the initial Y, and then we're going to move it up and down. Otherwise, you would be setting it at 0, and it would just be at the top of your screen moving up and down. So this allows us to place it anywhere within our frame, and it'll still work. And finally, we have scalar. Scalar is just the value that we are going to use to actually scale the object. So we're going to do our formula and apply that to scalar. All right, so we can actually do this very quickly with very few lines. So let's put some values in here. We're going to say for the scale amp, we just want 1 because we don't want it like a scale of an amplitude 2. That would be that would double the size of our object. So we don't want to do that. Swing amp, I'm going to say 300. Swing speed, 10. 10's a good number, but 12. And init Y, we're going to actually do its start so that it actually plugs in dynamically wherever this ball was at. Scalar, also, we will control dynamically. So let's go ahead and do a start of frame. First thing we're going to do is go to alterable values, and we're going to set the value of init Y to the Y position of our ball. So go down to the ball, grab its position, Y coordinate. Okay, so now all we need to do is set up an always event. So the first thing we're going to do is control the scale, and then we're going to take a look at it. So we'll do that this way using the same formula we did for the pendulum. We're going to set the alterable value, scalar, and scalar is going to be sine of timer divided by our modifying number, which we plugged into the value called swing speed. Now we need to multiply that by the amplitude, and we stored that into scale amplitude. So go to values and grab scale amp. Okay, so that has modified scalar. Now all we have to do is set the X and Y scale of this ball to the value of scalar. So just do that now. Go to the ball, go down to scale, and set the scale to the value of scalar. So grab that from the ball, and we're done. Press OK. We'll do one for quality. I want to set the scale after we change scalar, so make sure the order of operations is correct, and let's test it. Okay, so it does work, but as you see, it goes into the negative scale. We don't want that to happen. And obviously that's because it disappears, and that's going to look a little weird. So to fix that, we're going to need to add an offset value. So go back to this first line here, and here's what we're going to do. Take all this, put it in parentheses, and then add a value. We're going to say 1.5. That's going to be our offset value. This should keep it in the positive. It will make it come closer to the screen, but it will also keep it in the positive. So let's take a look. And that's pretty good. So now what we need to do is change the Y position. And we're going to be making it move up and down also on a wave, except we need to do the opposite of a sine, because it just, if you do sine, it'll jack it up. So we want it to be cosine. And then essentially it's the same thing, plus the initial Y position. So here we go. Set the position, set the Y coordinate, and we're going to set that to the cosine of timer, and divide that by the value of swing speed. Now, I forgot to mention, well, I did explain this. Since we are actually moving twice for up and down for every back and forth movement, we need to modify swing speed. It needs to be, we need to divide by half of the value of swing speed. So just multiply swing speed by 0.5. We're going to need to put this in parentheses, though, so that it does this first. And it's cordoned off. So there we go. We need a parentheses here, because that is that parentheses end. But we need one for this one, and then we need one for this one. I know parentheses can kind of be a pain, but if you look inward from the very center and then count outward, just make sure you have the equal amount of parentheses. So like if we look at ball, we've got 3 on the right, so we need 3 on the left. Okay, now we need to multiply. That's not a word. Now we need to multiply by the swing amp. So multiply value and grab swing amp. And finally, we need to add the initial Y position to all this. So just grab this whole thing, throw it in parentheses, and add the Y position we started with. All right, I know that looks complicated, but if we parse it out, it's really not so bad. Let's see if it works. And it does work. It does swing a little low, so let's move this up a bit. And we can control how far up and down it moves by going to the swing amp. So if we made that like 200, it won't go up and down as much. And if we change the swing speed, it'll go faster or slower. Higher number is going to be faster. No, higher number is slower. Lower number is faster, I think. Let's check it out. Yes. Whoa, it's making me dizzy. Yeah, so if we did something like 50, it would actually be ridiculous. Okay, so we use 12. Now, the scale amp, like I said, that's going to control how close and far away from the player it goes. But keep in mind, if you do change this value, you might need to change the offset value we did. So let's try what 2 looks like. Gets really close to the screen. And it becomes invisible, like I said. So you would need to go over here and modify this, maybe like 2.5. Then it's going to get really big. So, you know, I recommend keeping it where we had it, but you can play around with these numbers to get the effect that you want. All right, so if that's all you wanted to do is just learn how to make this pendulum, this swingy ball, Psuedo-3D swingy ball, you're done. But we are going to create that smoke effect as well. So if you want to learn how to do that, stick around. We're doing that right now. Okay, so go ahead and insert an object. We're going to call it smoke. So it's going to need 2 values. It's going to need a trans value that's going to control the transparency, and an X speed value. Let me import my smoke art. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is not created at start, because this is something we want to create dynamically. And let's program this. So essentially what we're going to do is we want to find out if the smoke needs to appear whenever the pendulum is at the bottommost point, right? Because that's the point at which it's going to be looking like, if we had the ground down here, whoosh, right there is when it's passing the ground. That's when the smoke kicks up. It creates a nice 3D effect. Now, the thing is, though, we're going to be basing this off the scalar, And if the scalar would hit the nice round number of 1, this would be very easy, but it's not going to do that. So we're going to have to create a range and then also have a cooldown of some type so that we don't spawn too many. So we're going to find out if this ball is within a certain scale range. And if it is, we're going to create the smoke, and it will not create more smoke if there is smoke. So we're going to have to make sure we clean up the smoke and destroy it first with a transparency fade out and then a destruction event. But if we time it right, we will get smoke every time this passes. So let's find the range. We'll do it this way. We'll find out if scalar, which is the size, if scalar is greater than 0.99, you might have to play around with this too. I'm going to copy that and edit it. And is scalar lower than 1.2? So if that's true, we're going to create the smoke object. So create an object under new objects. It's going to be smoke. And I'm going to create this relative to the ball. And we'll say like 256 on the X, and then, 128. So it's at the bottom. Maybe 164. I don't know. You can play around with this, get the effect you want. So it's going to create one there, and then we're going to copy this event, and we're going to make the 256 negative, so it puts it on the left side. So now we're going to create these two. Let's go ahead and look what happens. So it creates a bunch of them. The problem is it keeps making them, and we don't want that to happen. So we want this only to happen when there are none of these. So insert, go to smoke, go to pick or count, compare to the number of smoke objects, and we want to find out if that is 0. So what we're doing here, if there is no smoke, then we're going to make some. Right? Let's take a look. I imported the wrong smoke art. Let me delete. I don't want it to animate. I just want one picture. Okay. So we have created the smoke. That does work. Now what we need to do is add a transparency to the smoke so it's constantly getting transparent, and if it becomes invisible, we destroy it. So we'll do that this way. Alterable value under the smoke. Oops, sorry. We need to set up an always event. Go to the alterable value under the smoke of trans. We're going to set that to its current value plus something. So grab trans. Set trans to trans plus 0.1. That might be too fast. I don't know. And then we want to always set the transparency of smoke to that value. So go to effect, I think. Yeah. Compatibility, set semi-transparency. Go back down to the smoke and grab the value of trans. Oh wait, what am I doing? Set trans to trans plus 2. I don't know why I did that as a decimal. That's way too slow. Set trans to trans plus 2. There, that's pretty good. All right. Now, I would like to rotate this and the smoke and make it move away from the initial point. So, if this works right, we should be able to create them and then affect them after they're created, because they will be the currently scoped object. Let's see if that works. So we're going to create one. It's the one smoke object. It's the one to the right first. We're going to then modify some stuff about it. We're going to set the angle to a random angle. So just set angle to random 360. So we get a random angle between 0 and 359. So it'll rotate randomly. One for scale. Make sure we create first, otherwise it won't be scoped. And then we want to give its X speed value to a positive. So set the value of X speed to something like 10. All right, let's see if that worked. Oh yeah, I forgot to make it move. Down here on line 4, we now need to move the smoke based on its X speed. So go to the smoke, set its position, its x coordinate to its current x coordinate, and we're going to add the value of x speed. Okay, now let's see if that worked. It should have worked. Yeah, goes a little fast though, so we want to do a decay on x speed. So we'll do that this way. Go to the smoke, to its alter value of x speed, and we want to always multiply x speed by a value. So set x speed to x speed multiplied by a fraction, 0.9. I'm going to wing it, 97. So what that's going to do is it's going to keep shrinking over time. It's going to be, every time this program loops, it's going to make that value be 97% of what it was before. So it'll keep shrinking down. Yeah. I also think it should scale up because the smoke is like expanding. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We will set the scale of it to its current scale. So go to scale. Now you can't pick current scale. You can pick current X and Y scale. That's fine. We're going to scale them evenly, so that works great. Just grab the X scale. We're going to add 0.01. 1 for quality. That might not be fast enough. We'll find out. A little slow. We'll say 0.02. And finally, whenever this object is transparent enough, we want to make sure we destroy it. So go to the smoke, check the value of trans. If it equals 200, we're going to destroy the smoke. Nice. So we're going to go ahead and add a create smoke event down here. We're going to copy and paste below that, setting the angle, and then we're going to put the speed below that. We're going to make the speed -10, and on the creation event, we want to make sure that it's -256 because this smoke is being spawned to the left. Now, let's see if it worked. I'm a little concerned that it might not. Yeah, I thought that was going to happen. Okay, so this is a scoping issue. This should work because you're supposed to be able to scope multiple objects within the same event, but it's being a little goofy. So we can fix this, no biggie. All right, pull out all that stuff we just did. Copy line 3. So it's the exact same thing. Now we're going to need this to have 2 events here. So we'll do this first one when the number is 0, and then the second one when the number is 1. So find out if the number of smoke objects equals 1 on this line. That means that we have already made one, so this is going to be the second one. And all we need to do is then change a few things around. Create it at -256 instead of 256. The angle still needs to be random. We need to set the X speed to -10. And let's test. I think that should decay a little faster, so go ahead and change that decay value to something lower, like 96. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright guys, well that is our Psuedo-3D pendulum swingy ball tutorial video. So I know it's kind of niche, but it's something I saw, like I said, in a game I was playing, and I thought it was really cool, and I just want to learn how to recreate it and then show you guys if I could. I might make another one of these videos showing you how to do this in Game Maker. Probably be a little easier, actually. Alright guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. If you like this video, please click the like button. As always, if you have questions or comments, please leave them down below. I will try to get back to you. And I do have a Discord. It's a good place to learn Fusion and Game Maker, so link is in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and have yourselves a fantastic day. I will see you in the next video.